Greetings, Cypress Bible Church. My name is Tony Svensson. I'm the Go Pastor. And for the devotional today, I wanted to talk about life in the storm. As we go through this coronavirus situation where we see just all of our lives being kind of turned upside down and just all of us trying to find a new normal, we need to reflect on what God has promised us in His Word. He doesn't promise us that we will not have to go through storms in life. And in fact, he says the very opposite. He says we will go through storms. The question is how do we respond in the midst of the storm? He tells us in the book of Matthew, chapter 7, that he says, he talks about these two people. He says, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like the wise man who builds his house on the rock. The rains fell, and the rivers rose, and the winds blew and pounded that house. Yet it did not collapse, because its foundation was on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and doesn't act on them will be like the foolish man who builds his house on the sand. The rains fell, the rivers rose, and the winds blew and pounded that house, and it collapsed. Its collapse was a great crash. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were astonished at his teachings, and he was teaching them as one who had authority, not as the scribes. And so we see these two individuals. Both of them, what they have in common is they both go through the storm. The difference is one builds on the solid foundation, on the rock of Jesus Christ, and the other does not. He builds in the sand. And so, again, all of us are going to go through storms. But how we respond in the midst of the storm really is dependent upon our foundation. So we have to continually to go back to God's word, to look to Jesus Christ to get us through these situations. It wasn't too much longer in the book of Matthew that the disciples find themselves in this very situation. They find themselves in the midst of a real storm. They get into a boat. They're following Jesus in Matthew 8:24. It says, suddenly a violent storm arose on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. But Jesus kept sleeping. So the disciples came and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us, we are going to die. He said to them, why are you afraid, you of little faith? Then he got up and rebuked the wind and the sea, and there was a great calm. The men were amazed and asked, what kind of man is this? Even the winds and the seas obey him. And so we find ourselves in the midst of the storm, and I think we need to be reminded that Jesus has promised that he would never leave us nor forsake us. Again, he doesn't promise that we won't have to go through the storm, but he promises that he is there. And even when it seems like he doesn't care or he's distant, he is there, and his desire is to be with us and to see us through the storm. And I'm sure the disciples were continually learning this lesson. And we just have to have faith. We have to trust that God is with us through this. He will see us through it, and he will give us the strength that we need to endure. And in this time, even be salt and light to those around us, so that we can reflect the hope and the joy that we have because we have a relationship with Jesus Christ. So I would encourage you this morning to keep your eyes on Jesus, to make sure that you're continually building on the foundation of Jesus Christ, that you're in his word, that you're being persistent in prayer and giving, and all the things that God has called us to, that we can persevere during these difficult times. So may God continue to bless you and keep you. Thank you.